Welcome to Craving the Heat, where desire takes the lead and every story leaves you wanting more. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments and keep up with our latest naughty stories. It was a Saturday afternoon when everything changed. My name is Emma, and I've been married to Adam for 8 years. We met in college, and like many couples, our relationship was built on a foundation of love, trust, and shared dreams. Over the years, our connection had grown deeper, and we had weathered many storms together. Adam was my rock, my best friend, and for the longest time, I believed nothing could come between us. But life has a way of surprising you, and it was in the most unexpected of ways that I discovered how fragile even the strongest marriages can be. The weekend had started out like any other. Adam and I had decided to host a dinner party for some of our closest friends. It was meant to be a casual evening of food, wine, and good company. One of our friends, Josh, had recently moved back to town after a few years abroad, and Adam had insisted he come. Josh and I had always been friendly, but I had never seen him in the same way that I saw Adam. He was charismatic and charming, with a smile that could light up a room, but he was always just one of the guys, and my eyes dilated as the evening progressed. The usual warmth and laughter filled our home. Adam was his usual charming self, the life of the party, keeping everyone entertained with his stories and humor. I was in the kitchen, preparing the final course, when I noticed that Josh was the last one still sitting at the table with Adam. They were deep in conversation, a topic I couldn't quite make out from where I was standing, but I could see the way Josh was leaning in toward Adam, the way his eyes lingered a little too long on him. It made me pause. I didn't think much of it at the time, just two friends talking, but there was a subtle shift in the air. After a while, I finished cleaning up and rejoined the group, but I noticed that the chemistry between Josh and Adam was different. They shared looks, and I could tell there was something unspoken between them. It wasn't until later, when everyone had left and it was just the three of us in the living room, that the tension really started to unravel. Adam had mentioned that he and Josh were going to take a walk to clear their heads, as they sometimes did after a night of drinking. I told them to go ahead, not thinking much of it. Adam gave me a kiss on the cheek and promised it wouldn't be long. Josh, too, smiled and nodded, giving me an easygoing wave before the two of them left the house. I had no idea that in the next few hours, my world would begin to shift in ways I couldn't yet understand. The night dragged on, and as the clock ticked past midnight, I found myself growing restless. Adam had always been punctual, and he and Josh weren't typically gone for long walks. After checking my phone for missed messages and finding none, I began to grow uneasy. I tried to push it aside, maybe they just got caught up in conversation, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Around 1 a.m., the front door creaked open, and I heard the sound of footsteps. My heart skipped a beat as I stood up, half expecting to see Adam walk through the door with a smile and an apology for taking so long. But it wasn't just Adam. Josh was with him, and as they entered the living room, I saw something in their eyes, a shared understanding and unspoken moment between them. The way they looked at each other lingered a little too long, and it made my stomach twist. "Sorry we're late," Adam said, his voice tired but sincere. "We just needed to talk about some things." "No problem," I said, forcing a smile, though something about the way he said it made my insides churn. It wasn't the first time I'd heard him mention needing to talk things out with Josh, but this time it sounded different. The energy in the room fell off. Josh gave me a quick, reassuring smile, but there was something in his gaze, something I hadn't noticed before. It wasn't exactly flirtation, but it was close. He had always been playful, but now there was an edge to his demeanor. I couldn't place it, but the hairs on the back of my neck stood up as the night wore on. I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted between the three of us. When Josh left, Adam seemed unusually quiet, distant. The usual warmth between us wasn't there. I asked him what was wrong, but he just shrugged and told me he was tired. The next few days were a blur. Adam continued to withdraw, becoming more and more distant. The playful banter we once shared, the easy way we communicated, all seemed to vanish. I noticed that he was spending more time on his phone, texting and emailing, but when I asked him who he was talking to, he became defensive. I tried not to jump to conclusions, but the signs were starting to add up. Then it happened. One evening, while Adam was in the shower, I picked up his phone from the bedside table to check the time. But what I saw instead made my heart drop. There in his messages were texts between Adam and Josh texts that were no longer friendly. The words were laden with hidden meanings, inside jokes, and private conversations I wasn't part of. And then my eyes landed on something that made my breath catch. A message from Josh saying, asterisk, last night was incredible, but I still need more of you, Adam. My hand shook as I read it again, my mind struggling to process the words. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't some innocent text. Adam was having an affair with Josh. My husband, the man I thought I knew better than anyone, was involved with his best friend. The betrayal hit me like a tidal wave. I felt nauseous, dizzy, and utterly betrayed. I had always trusted Adam with everything in my life, and here he was, lying to me with someone I had once considered a friend. When Adam emerged from the shower, I confronted him. I didn't even give him a chance to speak before I showed him the text. His face went pale as he tried to explain, but I didn't want to hear it. The words felt like a blur, his explanations falling on deaf ears. He had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. I didn't mean for it to happen, Adam stammered, his voice full of guilt. It just happened, Em. I didn't know how to stop it. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did, I whispered, the weight of his words sinking in. You hurt me in ways I never thought possible. He tried to touch me to comfort me, but I pulled away, feeling like I was suffocating. The man I had loved, the one I thought would always be there for me, had been lying and betraying me for months. And not just with anyone with his best friend, the person I had trusted the most. I didn't know what to do. My heart was broken, my world shattered. I needed answers, but nothing he could say would change the fact that the person I had married was no longer the person standing in front of me. And yet, I found myself wanting more, and not just closure, not just an explanation, but more of what I had been missing all along. More than what I had been getting from Adam for years. That night, as I lay in bed, tears soaking my pillow, I realized that I needed more than just an apology. I needed to feel wanted, needed, and alive again. I couldn't stay in a marriage built on lies. The trust was gone. The love was fractured. And deep down, I knew I deserved more. The following weeks were a blur of therapy sessions, painful conversations, and awkward silences. Adam tried to make amends, but the damage had been done. The more he tried to justify his actions, the further away I pulled. I was left to confront the reality that I could no longer trust him. One evening, I found myself alone with Josh, the man who had caused all of this pain. He had always been a temptation, but now he was something more, a person who had awakened something in me I hadn't realized was missing. Our conversation started innocently enough, just the two of us sitting together, but the air between us felt thick with unspoken desire. Rachel, I never meant for things to get this far, Josh said, his voice low as if he were trying to apologize, but his eyes said something different. But I'm not sorry for how I feel about you. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't sorry either. I had been starved for connection, for attention, and I found myself drawn to him just as he had been drawn to me. The affair between Josh and Adam had opened up a door I didn't know. Existed a door to a new world where I wasn't just someone's wife, someone's partner, but someone who deserved to be seen, desired, and appreciated for who I was. I need more, Josh, I said quietly, the words spilling out before I could stop them. I need more than just what I've had with Adam. I need more than just what this life has given me. And in that moment, I knew things would never be the same. The life I had built with Adam was no longer enough, and I couldn't pretend. It was. What happened next would determine the course of my future. But for the first time in a long time, I felt alive, awakened. and ready for whatever came next. The road ahead would be messy. It would be filled with heartache, confusion, and difficult decisions. But I knew one thing for sure. I was no longer willing to settle for less. The weeks that followed were filled with turmoil. I tried to navigate my feelings, my relationship with Adam, and my growing connection to Josh all at once. The guilt, the shame, the confusion, they weighed heavily on me every single day. But despite the chaos in my mind, there was something undeniable about what had transpired between Josh and me. It wasn't just physical, it was emotional too. There was a depth to the way Josh understood me. A way he made me feel seen in ways Adam hadn't for years. Adam tried, of course. He went to therapy with me. He apologized over and over, telling me how much he loved me and how he had made the biggest mistake of his life. He cried, he begged for forgiveness, and he promised that he would do whatever it took to make things right. But as much as I wanted to believe him, I couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that something was irreparably broken. The trust between us was gone, and no amount of words or gestures seemed to be able to heal it. It was hard to even look at Adam the same way. Every time I saw him, I was reminded of the betrayal, the conversations with Josh, the secret meetings, the lies he told. He had promised me everything, and in return he had broken the one thing that mattered most, my trust. I couldn't pretend it wasn't there, no matter how many times he apologized. And then there was Josh. I began to spend more time with him, seeing him outside of the context of Adam's betrayal. At first, I told myself I was just seeking comfort, a temporary distraction from the pain I was feeling. But as the days turned into weeks, I realized that what I felt for Josh wasn't temporary. It was real. There was a chemistry between us that I couldn't deny, a pull that seemed to grow stronger every time we were together. We started seeing each other more often, meeting for coffee, going for walks in the park, talking for hours about everything. And nothing. Josh made me feel alive again. He wasn't Adam, and I didn't want him to be. But he was someone who cared about me, someone who made me feel important, desired, and worthy of love. The kind of love I hadn't felt in a long time. At the same time, Adam was becoming more desperate. He noticed the distance between us. He saw how I was slipping away from him, and he didn't know how to fix it. He started making more efforts, trying to surprise me with romantic gestures, taking me on dates, and even doing small things around the house to make my life easier. But it felt hollow. It felt like a desperate attempt to fix something that had been broken beyond repair. I couldn't look at Adam without seeing the image of him with Josh. Every conversation we had, every touch he gave me, it all felt tainted. The pain of his betrayal lingered in my heart like an open wound, and no matter how many apologies he gave, it wasn't enough. It couldn't erase the fact that he had hurt me in a way I couldn't forget. One evening, after a particularly strained dinner with Adam, I found myself at Josh's apartment. It was just the two of us, sitting on the couch, talking about everything that had been going on. The tension between us had always been there, but tonight, it was more intense. Our eyes met, and for a moment, everything else faded away. I could feel his breath on my skin, his presence so intoxicating, so alluring. And before I could stop myself, I kissed him. It wasn't just a kiss, it was a release. It was everything I'd been holding back for weeks. The passion, the need, the desire, it all came rushing to the surface in that moment. It wasn't just physical, it was emotional too. Josh made me feel wanted in a way I hadn't felt in so long. He made me feel seen, like I mattered. The kiss deepened, and soon we were tangled in each other, the world outside of us disappearing. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I was truly living. There was no guilt, no confusion, no shame. There was just the connection between Josh and me, raw and real. When it was over, I found myself lying next to Josh on the couch, my heart pounding in my chest. I felt conflicted, torn between the love I still felt for Adam and the overwhelming connection I had with Josh. I had never imagined myself in this situation. I had never imagined cheating on my husband, and yet here I was, lying in the arms. of the man who had been a catalyst for everything I had been avoiding. I never wanted this to happen. Emma, Josh whispered, his voice filled with regret. I never wanted to hurt you or Adam, but I couldn't help it. I care about you so much. I looked at him, unsure of what to say. I was consumed with guilt, but there was also something else, a sense of relief. With Josh, I didn't feel like I was living in the shadow of my past mistakes. He made me feel like I had a future, something that had seemed so uncertain with Adam. I don't know what to do, I whispered back, my voice shaking. I don't know if I can forgive him. I don't know if I can go back to what we were. Josh's hand gently caressed my hair, his touch comforting. You don't have to make any decisions right now. Take your time. But whatever happens, I'll be here. The next few days were a whirlwind of emotions. I couldn't look at Adam without feeling a sense of guilt and betrayal. At the same time, I couldn't ignore the growing feelings I had. For Josh, I knew I had to make a decision, but the weight of it felt suffocating. How could I choose between the man I had been with for 8 years and the man who had shown me what it felt like to be wanted again? I couldn't keep living in this limbo caught between my past and my present. One night, after another tense conversation with Adam, I made a choice. I couldn't stay in a marriage built on lies and broken trust. I couldn't pretend anymore that everything was okay when it wasn't. Adam, I said, my voice steady. Though my heart was breaking, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep living a lie. I can't keep pretending that everything's fine when it isn't. I've tried. I really have. But I'm not the same person anymore. Adam's face crumpled. In pain, his eyes filling with tears. Emma, please. I love you. I've made mistakes, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to fix this. I don't know if I can believe you anymore, I whispered, my voice barely audible. I don't know if I can trust you. And with those words, I knew it was over. There was no going back. I tried to make it work, but the damage had been done, and I couldn't continue pretending that everything was fine. Adam left the room quietly, and as I sat there, staring at the empty space he had left behind, I knew that this was the hardest decision I had ever made. But I also knew that it was the right one. The next few days were filled with uncertainty, but also a sense of freedom. I was no longer bound by the weight of a marriage that had become a prison. I was free to make my own choices, free to live my life without guilt or shame. Josh and I began seeing each other more seriously. It wasn't easy, it never is when you've been through something as painful as I had. But in Josh, I found something that I hadn't realized I was missing. A partner who was willing to love me for who I was, who understood my flaws and who didn't judge me for my mistakes. I still think about Adam sometimes, about the love we once had and the life we built together. But I know that I can't go back. I needed more than what we had, and with Josh, I found it and now every day. I choose the life I've built, the love I've found, and the person I've become. It hasn't been easy, and I know the road ahead will be filled with challenges. But for the first time in a long time, I feel like I am living a life that's truly mine, and that, in itself, is worth more than anything I ever had before. As the weeks passed, the reality of my decision began to sink in. It was like stepping into the unknown, a path I had never expected to walk. The freedom I had once longed for now came with a sense of responsibility, of trying to rebuild not only my life, but my sense of self. The first few days without Adam in the house were strange. It felt like something was missing, a space that once held a part of my past, but also a space I was beginning to realize had been filled with resentment. His absence was hard to adjust to, but it also offered me the chance to think about what I truly wanted out of life, what I deserved, and who I needed to become. Josh was there for me during this transition, offering a steady hand to hold. But as much as I appreciated his support, there were moments when I felt overwhelmed by the weight of my choices. I had stepped into this relationship with Josh knowing that it wasn't going to be simple, that it wasn't going to fix everything that had been broken. I wasn't sure if I was ready to be with him, or if I was just trying to escape the pain of my marriage.